Hello, my beautiful friends. I'm your host, Leah Rowling.
And I'm Carrie Kenzie. Welcome to Shift Happens. Discover the leader within. This podcast is designed to disrupt the way you live, lead, and love. At Shift, we challenge traditional narratives and believe that inner wisdom is the key to every decision.
Are you ready to explore a new paradigm of both living and leading? We'll dive deep into our innate strengths as women: compassion, curiosity, intuition, grace, vulnerability, and love. The shift, it's about to get real. Rediscover the power within and transform your life. Stay tuned. It all starts now. Hello, beautiful, beautiful friends. Welcome to Shift Happens. We are your hosts, Carrie Kenzie and Leah Rowling. And if it's one thing that we both know for sure, it's that shift happens. Chaos happens. It is inevitable, my friends. But here is the thing. Just because life throws us off course from time to time doesn't mean that we have to spiral with it. In today's conversation, we're talking about really how to stay in the calm when things happen. And hello, they do and they will. We shouldn't be blindsided with them when it happens, but we are, and it's okay, right? So whether it's uncertainty in your business, or whether it's personal challenges, or whether it's external drama that seems to show up from time to time, and generally at the worst possible time, right? You hear that all the time. Like, it couldn't be worse timing, right? The reality is, we all face moments of overwhelm. We all face moments of chaos. But what if we could break free? What if we had some tools, some strategies, some ideas on how to be less reactive when things like this happen? And they will. So what if we could rise above with clarity and purpose and really embrace the chaos instead of resisting the chaos? So that's what we get to do today. We are going to explore some C's for you, not C as in ocean C, but C's as an alphabet letter C, that will help you maybe have a tool for next time chaos comes to play in your life. And if it's there now, this is great timing. And if it's not, it'll sit here for you. So, all righty, we are going to get started with the first C. Miss Carrie.
Oh my gosh. Hi. Hi. Just the whole time you were talking, I thought there's something, well, always profound in our conversations, but something that was coming to me as you were talking is that so many leaders wish and desire for resilience. Like they want to sit in, I want to be resilient. And when I think about resilience, I think about having sure footing, being able to move or flow as things come up, right? And if you ever think about that, oh, why didn't I say that right then? Right? When you're like in the heat of something and you're like, oh, I wish I had that insight. I wish I had that thought. I wish I could see that possibility. This conversation gives you the guidance, the tool, the thoughts, or the calm presence in order to be able to do that. Because as you said, the rug does get pulled out from underneath us. It doesn't matter if you're a business owner, if you're a person, a human navigating this world, it is going to happen. And when we stand on our own foundation and we have that sure footing, right, we are able to withstand in a way that brings resilience and, like you said, not resistance. So that first idea we talk about is that chaos and confusion, right? Because that's the first thing that happens. That rug gets pulled out. All of a sudden you're like, oh, I don't understand what's happening. And you mentally kind of freak out. You become a little bit overwhelmed, right? And then, I don't know, your view goes from being big and broad and having a grand vision into a very tight, only able to see the thing that's right in front of you. And our instinct, our inclination is to run, jump, step, shift out of it as fast as we possibly can, right? This is really uncomfortable. The chaos is uncomfortable. The confusion feels overwhelming. And so please, Lord, get me to the other side as fast as possible. But the invitation is to remain. The invitation is to find presence, to really, when I say presence, to allow yourself to sit in the chaos for a moment, because it's in that jumping out where we become resistant. And we don't give ourselves the opportunity to understand what's happening, to be able to find that footing underneath us. And so instead of jumping and running, what if we sat in it, got uncomfortable, and then got curious about it?
Yeah. It's so good. It's so good. And it was funny because we were teasing this out, friends,
Yes.
last night. And I'm like, okay, I've got some ideas, and what are your ideas and what have you? And it's so brilliant because this wasn't a C. This wasn't part of the framework that I was thinking. And yet it's the very thing that we teach is that we sometimes think that resilience is to deflect, to dismiss, to discount the chaos, the overwhelm, the frustration, the whatever negative emotion that we might label it.
Yeah.
And the very first step, if we're stepping this out, has to be to acknowledge it, to embrace it, to understand that there is a reason for it, and it's for your own growth. It's for your own learning. I was just talking to a client just almost right before this podcast, and she was telling me, I mean, she was completely frenzied. She was, and I think it's cute that we were doing a podcast, like a pre-recording podcast today on chaos. And she was talking about all the chaos that she was navigating in the move of her new home. And it's boxes, and it's tripping, and it's the traffic of all of the humans and the dog and all of the things in this house and all of this. And she's just like, oh my gosh. And yet she's like, I manifested this house and I didn't manifest the chaos. And I'm like, dude, like, because you navigate chaos. Like, how do you show up in your practice? How do you show up in your business? Like, you navigate this all day, because she was concerned about all the schedules of the kids and where they needed to go. And the house was like 10 minutes away from all the things that she had already had this very timely, like, dude, you're telling me this as if you don't know how to do chaos well.
Yeah.
Right? So
it is. It's an invitation in, right? But it is our inclination, because that's what we've been taught as get up, brush it off, and keep moving. Keep moving forward.
Yep.
But when we sit in the chaos, we have the opportunity to get curious about it. Like, what is happening? What's happening? Why is this conversation? Why did this thing seem to occur? What am I feeling about this? What is this bringing up in me? What do I really feel like the next step could possibly be? What are the opportunities that could be showing themselves or revealing themselves? How can I be creative around this? Right? But really, it's sitting in that present. And it's not to say you're going to find that answer right away. And sometimes the presence looks like this, and especially in business, I had to use this on a couple of different occasions. When chaos is happening, when things are swirling around you, you don't have to respond right away. Okay, so let me just say, you do not have to respond right away. You have the ability to sit and say, you know what? I am processing a lot of things right now. I will let you know as soon as I'm ready to continue this conversation. And that's it. And sometimes maybe if we just even do that with ourselves, right? Hey, I got to process a lot of stuff right now. Let me think through this. Let me process through this. And when I'm ready for the conversation, I'm going to bring it forward, right? We're going to have the conversation. I'm not going to set you aside. And then we get to bring that curiosity in, because what does that do, Leah? Right? When we do the chaos and we get into curiosity, what does that bring us?
Well, first, friends, did you hear what she said? I really want to back this up. I have goosebumps. You guys, it's so important. So she invited you to give other people a pause. She invited you to say, you know what? I can't have this conversation right now. I can't do this thing that you're asking me to do. I just need to process. And yet, how often do we discount that very conversation with ourselves? Like when we're in chaos, how often do we say, Leah, love, give yourself a beat, give yourself a minute. Like
Yeah.
nothing is so urgent right now that requires, because if it does, it's going to come from this sense of, it's going to come from urgency,
Yes.
it's going to come from frenzy, it's going to come from angst and panic and scarcity. And that is not going to be effective in the decisions and the problem solving that you undoubtedly have to make within the chaos. So,
Yes.
so what she's inviting you to is, I know it seems weird to have a conversation with you, to pay attention to you, to stop
Yeah.
ignoring you, to give yourself the same courtesy that you
Yeah.
give to other people, to say, you know what, wait a second, babe, I got to process this. What if we were to say that to ourselves? And
Yeah.
that's what you asked. And I don't want people to miss it because it's gold. It's gold. But where that leads us to is calm practices,
Yeah.
right? So
Yeah.
walk us through some of the practices that you did and that you do to really kind of ground you into what's next and what's possible for you.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, let me tease out when I want you to bring forward yours
Yeah.
as well. I would say for me, and where I kind of even brought forward that whole like, you know what, I'm processing a lot of stuff, um, is just in breathing. That to me is key. It literally is key. It is stepping away. It is not feeling the need to have to respond immediately, but it is stepping away, sitting, walking, and taking some breaths. That's it. Not forcing, not feeling like I have to in this particular moment, but
Yeah.
really just taking some breaths. I mean, that to me, end of day, that is my go-to all the time. How about you, Leah?
Oh, I mean, yes, breathing.
Yeah.
I call it my parasympathetic pit stops, just really pushing away.
Yes. Yeah.
And in addition to the breath, um, shutting your eyes. Now,
Mm.
I'm not asking, unless you want to, I'm not asking you to meditate, right?
Right.
I'm not asking you to get the little pillow out and the beads and, the incense. And no, I'm asking you to push away from whatever it is. And I'm asking you to shut your eyes. You do it beautifully because every night you do it. And I'm asking you to breathe. And you do that beautifully too,
Mm.
right? I like to say nobody breathes better than you, right? So
Yes.
you shut your eyes. Why do we do that? Because when our eyes are open, the overwhelm is amplified,
Yes.
right? Everything is amplified because when your eyes are open, you're in fight or flight.
Yeah.
It's a parasympathetic pit stop because we don't want to call it meditation. So we just shut our eyes and we just breathe. And is there a rhythm? Is there a cadence? Is there a best practice? No, right? Like just breathe. Big, deep breaths in and big, deep breaths out to calm and reset your nervous system. That's what we're asking you to do. It is a beautiful gift that
Yeah.
you can give yourself to find that space between everything that was over here that seemed really frantic and really frenzied
Yeah.
to I am capable. I can handle it. There's right. But
Yes.
with your eyes wide open, all you see is you just see more chaos. You see more evidence that you don't got a good hold on it.
Yeah. Well,
So
and when your eyes are open, you're consistently trying to figure it out, right? You're consistently processing. So while you might be breathing, right? And for some, it's fine. Like I used to walk and I still do walk, but I used to just take meetings and go on walks. And that would help because I could get into a cadence,
yeah,
right? And it would deter my view. But you're right. If you're sitting with your eyes open, you're consistently processing and trying to figure out the next thing and not bringing yourself into that place of calm
yeah,
where you can just allow. You really have to let go of the overwhelm. That's it. You just have to like release it and hold it with an open hand and go, okay, what's next?
yeah, yeah. other than that, in the movement piece, whether it's walking or running or yoga or whatever it is, just moving your body, getting that blood flowing in
Yeah.
other parts of your body,
Yeah.
because when you're in your head, that's where the blood will go, right?
Yeah.
So just give yourself a chance to bring some life into other places of your body to connect in that way. Journaling. I journal a lot around the things that are coming up into my head just to get them out of my head.
Yeah.
Those are kind of my big,
Yeah.
big calming practices. And it doesn't matter. Like I would say, it doesn't matter what your calming practices are, just that you have some
Mhm.
that you can fall back on and you can invite yourself into,
Because
right?
that's where the insights come. That's when we find clarity. That's
Yeah.
when we come up with the idea. When the next step in whatever it is that you're trying to navigate through comes forward, I joke a lot. It's like when you're trying to figure out the actor's name and you're trying to process and think through and then you walk away.
Yeah.
Yeah, oh, that's it. Right. It's why you always come up with the best comeback after you walk away in 5 minutes.
Yes.
Like, oh, I wish I would have said that. That's clarity. That's
Yes.
clarity. That helps you then to be able to find the resolve, to be resilient, to understand and know the next step. That might be in a place of overwhelm where the next light bulb goes off and you're like, oh, why did I not see that before? That's the answer I was looking for before I even got into that whole mess. And
Yeah.
and there it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think once you give yourself that space, whether it's in shutting your eyes or taking a breath or taking a walk, then you get curious,
Mhm.
right? You can get curious. And again, in the curiosity comes the clarity. But
Mhm.
it's really hard to be curious when your brain is already in overwhelm, when
Yeah.
you're already thinking 1,000 different thoughts, right? And you don't actually access,
Yeah.
right? Not because we say so, because science says so. You can't access your prefrontal cortex in overwhelm.
No.
You can't access the highest logical problem solving machine from this part of the brain. It doesn't
I'm
happen.
so glad you said that, Leah, because here's the thing. It's like, no, you can get curious. Your brain will go there in overwhelm. It's just not going to take you to a very pleasant space.
Right, right. No, right. It's
Yeah.
it's going to take you to all the things that have gone wrong, tragically wrong, and how, right? And
Oh,
then that's when you ruminate into my life should be different and my life isn't fair and my life should be different in all of the ways. And that is a very treacherous.
and because that's not how you want to show up.
Oh.
So what's our next C, Leah?
Our next C is conscious character.
Yes.
Conscious character.
Yeah. Right.
And and so when we think about conscious character, it's how you want to show up. And because you're listening here, this is a little bit advanced. This is a little advanced. We're not asking you to, after you allow, right, the chaos, and then you have your calm practice, and then you get curious, then you decide how you want to show up. The invitation today is to ask you how you want to show up in advance of the chaos. And I'm sorry if you're all in chaos right now, like, right? Figure this out before. But if you're not, right?
Yeah.
If you would say that you're in a state of calm right now, you're in a state of flow, you're in a state of ease,
Mhm.
this is the time to really think about very mindfully, intentionally about how you're going to show up in chaos. And it's so important that we're intentional about it. And I said intentional, I didn't say perfect.
Mhm.
So let's be clear on that. Intentional about when chaos comes, and it will. How do you want to show up? How do you want to role model how to handle the to-dos, the overwhelm, the assistant that just quit, the patient that didn't come in, the client that just ghosted you, the vendors that aren't returning your calls, right? All of that. How do you want to show up in that? Right?
Mhm.
Right? How do you want to show up? We were talking yesterday. How do you want to show up at the airline counter when all things are going wrong with your airline, what kind of energy do you want to put out there into the universe? Because whatever you put out is what you will get.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit more about this from your perspective, Carrie.
So I love when we set the intention in advance. We also give ourselves the grace in the moment of the chaos, right?
Yes.
Because it doesn't mean that we're not going to be rocky. It just means when you set that intention ahead of time, subconsciously, that piece is still going to be there. And even though you're consciously not aware of it and you're feeling like, rug just got pulled out, oh my gosh, there's a piece of you that is going to do what it needs to do. It's going to sit, it's going to get curious, it's going to take those calm practices because this is how it wanted to show up. But then in that chaos, we get to make that choice as well. Right? In that chaos, we get to work through, find calm, and then say, how do I now want to show up? How do I want to be received now when I step back into that conversation? Because maybe I didn't show up the way I wanted to before, but now I get to decide how I want to show up. Now I get to decide how I want to model what it is that I just navigated through. So there is a consistent conscious choice. And like you say, we're going to falter. We all do. So just to have grace in that moment and then come back to. Because you're going to consistently move towards that intention, and it's going to help build that muscle each and every time. That then once you decide and you're like, no, this is how I want to show up. This is how I want to take this problem and how I want to navigate forward with it. Because then that moves you into action.
Yeah, because that's what choice is. It's not, or when we think about choice, calmness is, it's not accidental. It's a proactive choice. It's a proactive action, right?
Yeah.
Which I absolutely love. I was thinking about this whole notion of, the embracing of the chaos, the curiosity to sit with yourself, to ask yourself the questions in a non-chaos mind, to get to decisions, to get to problem solving, to even if it's just problem solving on how I want to show up next.
Yes.
Right. What do I want that conversation to look like? How do I want to take responsibility in whatever way or whatever it was that I had showed up as?
Yeah.
That is a testament of character, just in that. And I don't think we give ourselves enough credit for when we maybe don't show up in the way that we want to, right? I mean, think about it in business. A lot of people say that when something goes wrong in business, it's a terrible, terrible thing. And yet others that have been there know that it could be the very best thing. It's how people respond for when they made a mistake or when they messed up. And if they come back and they fully own it, there's a level of trust that is cultivated. You're like, wow, I really appreciated that you owned it, right? And that, wow, talk about character. Right? Talk about a character build, not just with the other people that you might want to, come forward with an apology of how you showed up, but trust with yourself in it, in having that conversation. Yeah.
That's just it, Leah. As you're navigating through all of this, every time you sit in that discomfort and you bring back the calm, you earn trust credit with yourself every time.
Yeah.
Because the next time you're not going to do that auto response, right? Which, gosh, we need to tease that in of that auto response in things that will be pulled forward from past experiences.
Yeah.
Right? When we start to continuously and very intentionally sit in the chaos, bring the curiosity, right? Find the calm within it. We break that cycle.
This is so big. It's so big because one, I think it allows us to have, again, that grace, that patience, that understanding, that acceptance that we most likely are responding, we're reacting based on our conditioning, based on how chaos was role modeled, right?
Mhm.
So I just think about right now, like when you think about, your parents or your caretakers or your teachers or even your siblings, how do they deal with overwhelm?
Yeah.
I'm guessing that how you deal with overwhelm mirrors the way that they do, the way that they did. Why is this so important? One, it's so important so that you can have an awareness and grace as to why it is that you show up that way. And two, and probably even more important, is you understand the consequences of how we show up. You understand that there is a ripple, there is a generational like ripple of that response. And it's conditioned, and you can break the cycle. You can break the cycle with this pattern, with these tools, with these steps. You can
Yeah.
break the pattern for generations to come, or we can just keep repeating our reaction to it.
Right. Right. Well, and it's the initial reaction, what most people will do is shut down, shut it out, and continue to move on. And that's something that it's generational. It's seeped in.
Yeah.
It doesn't even have to come directly from parents. It can come from culture. I know there's this Gen X thing that happens out on Instagram all the time that just makes me laugh because how true it is being of Gen X era. But it talks about like this is how we dealt with the challenger. We're all sitting in classrooms. We're all watching the TV. We're all watching this devastation, this chaos, right? This thing happen in front of us. And they shut down the TV and they acknowledged it for a second. And we went back to class and moved on. They're like, that's the era we came from. So when we look at this, we look at it kind of as this collective thing. And we feel like, again, we go back to, we feel like we're resilient. We feel like, well, that's what we're supposed to do, right? In order to show up and be the best person for the next person. When that's not the case.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's showing up and being the best person for the next person is sitting within yourself. It's asking those questions and it's breaking that pattern.
Yeah.
Because in breaking that pattern, you have compassion for yourself, which allows you to have compassion for other people. And the expectation of those that you lead is not that they shut down and continue to move on. Because if there's an error that's made, I really hope they sit in it for a moment. I really hope they get curious about it, right? And then they decide, like you said, that character on the other side,
Mhm.
that they're going to show up different.
Yeah.
It's beautiful the way you said that, Leah.
It's and so it just got me thinking as you were sharing, like, and this might not be true for you, and it might not be true for any of y'all, but for me, the challenger analogy was like, hello, like, right?
Seriously.
It's no wonder that we endure and we endure and we endure and we endure, and then we just blow up, right? Because it's like this beach ball, right? We just shove it down, shove it down. It didn't happen. I'm resilient. I'm resilient. I'm resilient. And then all of a sudden, guess what happens? When you take a hand off because you get a little tired, or you take a hand off because your to-do list just can't, the ball just it blows up, it comes out of the water, it shoots up and out, and you're like, what just happened? What happened is you didn't embrace the chaos. What
Yes.
happened was is you shoved it down, and you shoved it down on top of this emotion and this emotion and this emotion. And then you wonder why we might be struggling to navigate our life. Hello. I'm raising my hand if you're just listening to this,
Right.
right? Because that was me. That can historically be me. And
Yes.
if I'm not very careful, and intentional about it, that is me.
And where does it blow? See, that's the thing, right?
Mm.
That's when you look at that beach ball. I love that, right? And you're like shoving it down and shoving it down and shoving it down, and you take the hand off because you get tired and it completely blows. Where do you blow? You never blow in the place where it was designated. You know what I mean? You never blow in like that moment of chaos. Where you blow is when you come home.
Yes.
It's with your kids. It's with your spouse. And it's those moments where you're like, oh, why did I say that? Why did that bother me so much? Why did I get so upset about that? And again, it's kind of even sitting in that chaos and asking that question, right? When you come home and you completely blow because somebody asked you what's for dinner and you're like, oh my, you can't figure that out, right? And you feel justified, but you're like, oh, I feel bad about that.
Yeah.
That's when we ask the question and go, okay, whoa, where did that come from?
Yeah.
And find the peace and
Yeah.
find the calm in it. And it's going to take you back to the ball you shoved down,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Because we all know it's never the thing. It's never that. It's never the thing. It's never the dish in the sink.
No.
It's never the inquiry about what's for supper. It's never that thing.
No.
What it generally always is the very thing that you shoved down under false resilience when it was actually resistance.
Did you just say that again? False resilience. That was brilliant. I got chills when you said that.
False
Yeah.
resilience.
Because
Yeah.
that's what we think it is. We think
Yeah.
we're being resilient.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's just an invitation for all you guys just to allow yourself to be a flippin' human in our humanness.
Yes. Yeah. And to give yourself some grace. Really give yourself some grace, but to go back to that, you know what? You just get to process through a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
You do. There's a lot of stuff that's happening in the world. There's a lot of stuff that's happening in life, a lot of stuff that's happening in business, and you get to process it and you get to have those moments, right? But then also to know that it's okay to have somebody to be able to hold you in the space of that as well, right? To be able to say, okay, how are we navigating this? And what do we need to do, right, to bring some clarity around it? How do we get curious in this? And I know that's some of the things that we have coming, some spaces that we're really going to be holding and hosting for these leaders, for everybody to come in and really be able to navigate and to pull this full resiliency in with themselves.
Yes. So if you want to level up in your ability to lead with true resilience, right? We would invite you to any of those programs and we're going to be releasing them. So stay tuned for any and all of it. So we love you. We love this conversation. We love having you here. And until next time, have a beautiful one.
We'll see you.
You have been listening to Shift Happens. Discover the leader within with Leah Rolling and Carrie Kenzie, where we help you reconnect with your inner leader. Learn to trust your instincts and live with authenticity and confidence.
Tune in every Friday at 11 a.m. Central Time to Shift Happens on Transformation Talk Radio for more insights, inspiration, and actionable strategies to live and lead, not only in purpose, but on purpose. It is time to embrace a life and leadership style that is true to you. For more information, visit shift.life.